This is not just about history. It's about you and it's also about me and how we think of ourselves in front of the world.
Makasaysayang araw po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Xiao Chua, historian ng The Filipino Story, and welcome to Ask Xiao! Alam nyo, nagpapasalamat po ako sa inyo, especially the Filipino Americans for sending their questions. Thank you for engaging with the Filipino Story Studios. So, I think let's begin. It's Xiao time! Let's go to I Show Bilis. I Show Bilis. So you're showing speed, ganon? I show bilis? Your question is, Valentine's Day is coming up. How do I get myself a Filipino girlfriend? Wow, I show bilis. Ang bilis mo, ha? You want a girlfriend agad, a Filipino girlfriend? Well, not so fast if you were in the olden days. Filipinos, before, do long courtship. You have to be clear with your intention. Ngayon, ewan ko na lang. Palabuan ng intensyon. But before, you have to be clear with your intention. Ang tawag doon, aakyat ka ng ligaw. Bakit aakyat? Why are you climbing? Because you're literally climbing the stairs of a house to court a woman. So it has to be in their house. In the house of the girl, you bring something, you wear your Sunday best, you present your best self, the best way you speak, and stuff like that. It's really your dress to impress. But not only that, you have to prove your sincerity by working. At yun ang tinatawag na ipansisibak mo ng kahoy, yung babae. You will go to the woods and you're going to cut trees or get firewood for the cooking and everything. When you already have an understanding with each other, your parents and your family will have to meet the partner's family. Basically, it's your whole family na mag-a-ask sa family ng girl ng kamay ng babae. And that is what we call pamamanhikat. Today, I hope that the old tradition doesn't stop, even if our courtship is already contemporary. We should still have that show of respect for the family of the nililigawan and respect for the nililigawan. And that boundaries are boundaries and consent is very, very important and crucial. Alright? Brother Xiao Chua. At ako ang inyong Dr. Love. Ting! Alright, King Mahimahi, in celebration of National Arts Month, who do you think was the greatest artist in Philippine history? That's a hard question to ponder because we have so many great artists. Fernando Morsolo, we have Guillermo Tolentino, Benedicto Cabrera, Anita Magsaysayho. But perhaps for me, because I am a historian, the greatest Filipino artist would be Carlos Botong Francisco. This guy, this artist, made the past and the struggles of the Filipino people alive. Filipinos did not take photographs during their battles during the Philippine Revolution. We have no record of how we were as we fought for our freedom. In the paintings of Carlos Botong Francisco, we're able to have a visualization. Sometimes there are criticism that his paintings are not that accurate, but like the crossing of the Delaware, it's not the accuracy, but more than accuracy, it's the feeling that it evokes to you. So when we look at Carlos Botong Francisco's depiction of the Battle of Pinaglabanan, it brings you to the aspirations of why our heroes sacrificed. And if you look at his paintings of the execution of Jose Rizal, it makes you feel the intensity and the sincerity of our heroes. And so for me, Carlos Botong Francisco is the greatest Filipino artist. At least in the visual arts. I hope the other artists will not be jealous. So don't be jealous, Fernando Morsolo. Don't be jealous, Juan Luna, please. Okay, Florencio Cabamalan. About the Banaue Rice Terraces, how old are they really? Some tell me it's over 2,000 years. Others say it's more recent. If it's recent, is it still something to be proud of and considered as a wonder of the world? That's a very good question. For many, many years, it was the hypothesis of Henry Otley Bayer that the Banaue Rice Terraces was actually 3,000 years old. But recently, this was challenged by the archaeological study of Dr. Stephen Acabado. He was able to date them and say that these terraces were only 400 years old. What does this mean? That the Ifugao people actually were from the lowlands. And because of colonialism, they went
to the mountains, and because they have to continue their agriculture, they were able to adapt by making terraces out of the mountains in reaction to colonialism. So some people would now say that the Banaue Rice Terraces as a cultural item of our ancestors is a myth. It cannot be used to prove the culture of our ancestors because it was already during the time of the Spaniards. But if that is so, for me, although the age of the rice terraces is important, it's not as important as what it tells us about our culture. Number one, the Banaue Rice Terraces, even if it was made as a reaction to colonialism, they wouldn't have made it in such a grand scale if it was not their way of life for centuries. So the rice terracing culture was already there. I also would like to remember what Dr. Luis Camaraderi, a late historian and friend of mine, said. And what is this? That the Banaue Rice Terraces can be at par with the great cultural marvels of the world. If you look at the pyramids of Giza, the Taj Mahal of India, and the Great Wall of China, they were made through forced labor. And why were they made? Because they were graveyards. Great Wall of China was for security, but if you died there as you were working on it, it will be your graveyard. The Taj Mahal was made as a grave for the wife of the Maharaja. The pyramids were the grave of pharaohs. So all of that human toil for the graveyard of the powerful, but in comparison to the Banaue Rice Terraces, the Banaue Rice Terraces as a civilizational marker of the Filipino is fantastic because we did not make it because it is a grave of a privileged person, but we made it for the survival of the whole community. With the whole community working together in bayanihan spirit, pakikipagkapwa-tao, and people power. And the most important thing about it is, even after centuries, it is still in use today. The way our ancestors willed it to give kaginhawaan to the Ifugao people. Alright? I think that's nice. Antonio Jamila, 5175. Is it possible that our history is distorted because many of our reference books were written by our colonizers, especially in the 1950s and the 1960s? Our colonizers only stayed here until 1946. So, I don't think this is an accurate statement. But, if you're telling me that they were written by Filipinos in the colonial perspective, I might agree. Remember that most Filipinos did not write before the coming of the Spaniards. So, when the Spaniards came, they introduced writing, and the Spaniards said that since we did not have a written history, they wrote our history for us according to their perspective. So, we felt bad about ourselves. Because that history written by the foreigners, by the Spaniards, and then eventually by the Americans tells us that we were barbarians in need of saving. That they were white people and we were brown people. They were the colonizers and we were the colonized. And that perspective got to us and we had a national inferiority complex, a national insecurity. And so, this is not just about the writing of history. It's about you and it's also about me and how we think of ourselves in front of the world. When the colonizers wrote our history and we read it and we read history not in our own eyes but in their eyes, we felt little about ourselves. We felt that all good things can only come from outside. By the way, Rizal's novel, Noli Me Tangere, the title means touch me not. But Noli Me Tangere is actually a cancer in the eyelids that if you try to cure it, it will just get worse. So, Jose Rizal tried to cure the cancer of perception about the way we look at ourselves by writing novels, by annotating history, and Jose Rizal started, in many ways, the Filipino perspective of looking at history. And many Filipino historians have continued to look at history in this way ever since. The decolonization, ang deskolonizasyon ng ating kasaysayan, is still a process that will still continue up to this day. Unti-unti, pumapasok na yung Pilipinong perspektibo. Kaya nga tayo may The Filipino Story. Versus San Bautista 1, how can the Philippines be so Americanized if the Philippine-American War was so brutal for the Filipinos? Okay, let's review. The Philippine-American War was a very, very brutal war that happened between the First Philippine Republic and the United States of America. That war killed 200,000 Filipinos. Okay? Now, why did we forget about it? Because the Americans, the United States of America, was a sentimental imperialist. Meaning that they are motivated by the belief that they are doing good when they bring their way of life to other cultures. In 1901, the Americans sent a ship of teachers called Thomasites because they came from the ship Thomas. and they started to be deployed around the country to teach in public schools that were set up by America. Eventually, what happened was, Isauro Gabaldon would mandate that there should be a school building every 3 kilometers so that school children of the Philippines will not have to walk far. And that's why we have the Gabaldon public school houses around the country, which happened en masse for the first time. And that's why we Filipinos, when we look back at it, the Americans, in all fairness to them, they became cordial to us, they were friendly, and they made us feel that they were actually gearing us towards independence and democracy. So that is why we forgot about the Philippine-American War and we actually became more friendly with America. By the time of the Second World War, Filipinos and Americans were fighting together. And then, of course, what is unfortunate is we're so fond of America that after the war, it is as if they really never left. Despite independence, there was a neo-colonial setup that kinda made us entangled with America for the next decades, which is probably a topic for another video. Okay? Sesty Pepsi 26. Happy New Year, Professor Xiao. What are your goals for 2025? And what do you want to see happen in the Philippines this year? Bunny, why is there always a personal question every other Ask Xiao time? This is supposed to be about history. Okay, my goals for 2025. Of course, we hope that we are able to have a successful wedding with my girlfriend, Mai. I have no fitness goals because that's obvious. I really like eating. Mai would wish that I have goals of cutting down on my book expenses, but that's probably not gonna happen. But this is what I'm going to tell you. I do hope that I can still engage with my people, bringing history closer to them through the various engagements that I have. I really hope that the Filipino Story Studios would continue to help me engage with you. And my prayer is that in 2025, the Filipino Story Studios would strengthen more, would serve you more, would deliver more content. And with your support, we will continue even after 2025. That is my goal, is to continue to serve with you and to serve with the Filipino Story Studios. So thank you all for your support and for joining me on this episode of Ask Xiao! That's it. Thank you for your questions. Please keep asking questions in our Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. Please continue to engage with us. Subscribe, like, and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And that was another strange episode of Ask Xiao!